joke was that our state flower is mildew because it rains so much.
And so you might just accidentally push yourself in the wrong direction a little bit, and then it's like, I'm going to pay for it the next day.
There's no guarantee whether we'll do it.
But I was just like chilling. I look over and I was like, oh, hello, vagina.
Keep that compass pointed, true north to what you believe.
Definitely don't go to school.
Go to rock and roll school.
That's kind of crazy, but
I don't remember this.
Me neither.
But when it comes to write lyrics, I really, it's a pain in the ass for me,
Wow, this is what I want to listen to during my whole life.
Did you really bring that up? That was a private conversation.
But I hope people keep thinking that I'm really relaxed while I'm playing and do not realize when I'm playing the difficult parts of the song.
Those things are always interesting just because I'm so scattered.
Polka metal can be interesting.
Polka metal, yes. I like it.
It's a microphone. What am I supposed to do with this? I'm not sure. I don't remember.
I know who to sue.
Yeah.
It was that being told I can't and I shouldn't made me want to do it.
And I'm really hopeful that that's not possible.
I want to be in their presence, so I conduct my life in a way that I hope that they want to be in my presence as well.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington, and thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful Wednesday, the 23rd of June, 2021. It's really just as summer-like as can be here in Seattle. And again, I thank you so much for joining me. A few quick housekeeping details before we get to this afternoon's interview. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time here on the west coast of the U.S., so this is Thursday. I have Sonia Anubis from Crypta coming, and they just released their album about a week and a half ago, which is just a really great death metal album if you're into that. So she's one of the guitarists in the band, and she also has Cobra Spell over in the Netherlands. So she'll be joining me evening her time and late morning here. And there are some other things that are pending right now. The Tribeca Festival just, finished up in person. It's finishing up virtually right now this week. And so there's some other things that are kind of coming from that particular event in my life. And also just kind of looking for some balance here as we're moving into summertime and seeing how many streams I do and some other things with what I do outside of here with my Muggle job and everything else that I have going on. So if you'd like to know though what's going on, you can follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first. And then some of that information migrates over to other social media platforms. Something really huge right now, it's huge to me at least, is that if you have me watching this interview right now for the very first time, have never been to my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor and subscribe to my channel, hit that little button there, that would be great, as we're getting very close to that magical number of 1,000 subscribers. And for those that aren't familiar with what happens, basically YouTube works just like a casino or any other kind of business where they don't want you to leave. They want you to stay there. They want you to watch things. And so you need to have viewership hours, which I've had for months. That's well above the minimum that they require. But for some reason, I'm not getting the subscribers that watch my content. They're not hitting that little button. So it doesn't cost you anything. It won't put things in your inbox. If you want to know what's coming up, that's when you hit the notification bell, and that will send you things to your inbox. But just hitting the subscribe button on my channel would be great. I would love to get to that 1,000 mark, and then obviously then some, and start moving into a second level basically of someone on YouTube, which is kind of crazy to me to think that we're almost there. And it's really happened pretty organically. I've never tried to buy followers. I've never tried to buy anything in terms of people that watch this, but I always like to at least make a pitch about I think it was like 22 subscribers away. So we're getting very close. So maybe by July we'll get there. And if you're really wanting to help out the channel, you can always hit the PayPal me link, which is in every description of every YouTube video that I have. Any kind of tip or donation goes right back into what I do. I've mentioned this before. I need to change the stuff behind me. My paintings, I need to get inspired and do some new ones this summer. The backdrop, I think also I need to change, because it's been I think March, maybe April, since I last changed things, but that's only if you're so inclined and in a position to do so. But I greatly appreciate it. I have absolutely no shame that my birthday was last week. So if you'd like to make a birthday or belated birthday tip, then you can always do that via the PayPal me link. And again, if you're not in that position, hitting the subscribe button makes a huge difference to my channel. So let's get to things. My guest today is a fantastic music artist that I first interviewed back in February of 2021. We were just talking about this pre-show that it was snow on the ground where she is, and it was cold out here. And now it's completely, at least over here, the opposite. It sounds like things are a little cooler than normally over there on the East Coast right now. She has a new EP coming out today. Please welcome back to the Eclectic Arts Virtual Studio, Sydney Sherwood.
Hello.
Hi, Sydney. So good to see you. How are you?
So good to see you too. I'm doing great. I just wanted to say happy belated birthday. And with YouTube, everybody needs to 22. Come on, we got to get to 1,000. That's so exciting. I'm like so happy for you that you're almost there because that's a big thing, you know.
Well, thank you for the birthday wishes, and thank you for the push with the YouTube subscription part. You know all about how that works with YouTube and the numbers and the algorithm.
Yeah.
If you're trying to monetize anything, and what I found out for most people is that they find ways to kind of get, I won't say false ones, but they find ways to get people to subscribe to their channel, but then they don't have the viewership hours. I'm the other way around. I was well over that minimum months ago because people have been watching stuff, but they don't hit the little button. So I'm like, oh.
I know, and it's so annoying. And I'm like, the button is right there. Just click it, you know, because people will watch, but then they won't subscribe. And it's like, no, you just gotta subscribe. So 22 away. I hope that comes soon for you because 1,000 is a big deal.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope we get there, and then I'll be working even that much harder just to provide that much more content there. Yeah, and so just so you know, I forgot to mention this before that we went live, was that I have had some tech issues recently. So if you see me disappear from your screen, just know that I'll be back in about 5 seconds.
Okay.
It's something that seems to be going
good.
on my iOS on my end. Yeah, maybe we'll get lucky and it won't happen, but just in case, it's like where'd Mark go? Again, it's something I can't control. It annoys the hell out of me. But,
okay.
So there's actually several different things that have happened since we last talked on March 3rd, and then we had February 3rd, and at the symposium I had looked up, the date was the 21st, and it is the 23rd, so there's a 3 in there.
Yeah, we were close. We were close.
Yeah, and so we're going to talk about what you have newly coming up tonight, but I want to kind of tie these last interviews together to this one. When I last spoke to you, you were on your way to Nashville, and you're going to be working on, I want to say, a song with a collaboration, and then I know you went into like a song contest. So can you kind of catch everybody up basically on what you've been up to the last couple months?
Yeah, so I mean, it's been a crazy time. I was telling Mark in the pre-show that you know, the months have flown by and they feel like it was an eternity ago, but then at the same time it feels like it happened seconds ago. So since we last spoke, I went to Nashville and I recorded a song with one of my friends that I met on American Idol. And that song will be coming out very soon. So I'm very excited about that. I don't have an official date yet. And I didn't have an official date a few months ago, but I'm super excited for that one to come out. I really love it. And my friend and I, it was just a great duet and we really worked well together. And we did that with Brian Craddock, who I did my record Headspace with. And then more recently, I was in Cover Nation's Sing It Forward Challenge, which was a huge opportunity. And I got to work with Grandson, who I really love. I didn't know him before. And then I had watched videos on him and watched interviews and read interviews and press on him. And we were very alike in terms of what we write about and how we like to write and the subject matters that we really feel like are important in exploring and in writing with songwriting. And I really love that experience because it allowed me to work with other people and just see what it's like to be in the industry or be someone that has a little bit more notoriety in the industry. And the contest was a great experience. And through it, I got a scholarship to Berklee College of Music for the summer. So I'm taking a songwriting course there, which is so awesome. And it was amazing. And it was a really great experience. And it allowed other people to see my music and really listen in. And that's what I've been doing. Right now, just enjoying the summer. Not too much is going on, but I definitely have some things coming up, and that's what I've been doing since we last spoke. But I feel like I said, it feels so long ago, but then at the same time, it feels like it was days ago. So I guess that's just how it's been going, especially with COVID too, you know?
Yeah, thank you for catching me up and everyone else up that saw our last two interviews that we did. And you're right, the weirdness of COVID has, that timeline thing is still present, even though we're slowly opening up in places, which is great. Don't get me wrong and everything, but that whole time, yeah, it's like, when did that happen? And did this happen yesterday? No, that happened 2 months ago.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, it's just kind of nutty. And hi, Carlos, good to see you again. Thank you for joining us via Twitch and possibly via YouTube, because I know sometimes you look out on both and maybe chat on the other. Yeah, I've noticed that you've had some really nice things on your social media when you've been outside or out on the lake, and I'm kind of like, wow, you're doing it like that. That's that's really nice.
Yeah, no, it's been very nice. I was just in Lake George for a wedding, and that was kind of a nice recharge, and my whole family went. So it was nice to just be outside and be in nature and be on the lake and go on the boat. And that kind of gave me this recharge that I needed a little bit. Just I would say like mundaneness of life, but like same old, you know, it spiced things up a little. So that was nice, because I'm very much a stay-at-home kind of person. So
Okay, well, that's great that, yeah, you got a chance to go out there and recharge and be around nature and yeah, kind of break up your routine a little bit. And
yeah,
I know you've mentioned to me more than once that you get a little impatient at times when it comes to like your music and your career, and where you're like, I want it to happen now, kind of stuff. And
yeah,
it becomes something where, yeah, it really becomes more of the marathon instead of the sprint mentality, because sometimes you just kind of have to wait things out and kind of see how it kind of builds up and develops. It can't all happen at once. Like, I wish I had 1,000 subscribers right now, but it's taken a long time. But I know I'll get there at some point. It just depends on when.
yeah. It's been a challenge for me, I think, and I think for a lot of more independent musicians during this time, because it's been so challenging to get things out there and get things seen. And I mean, you know, a lot of people who will work with you will only work with you if they see like, okay, the social media presence is there and the YouTube presence is there and the views are there and the subscribers are there. And it's very much a numbers kind of business, which I think I really struggle with, because the numbers are not always there. And you try so hard and you put so many things out and you put out great content, and then it's almost like you're not rewarded for it in a sense. And I'm not talking about like a worldly reward, but you know, you put in the work, and then you say, okay, like I think good is going to come out of this. And then sometimes when it doesn't, it's a little bit of a discouragement. And I've seen that in this time. I try not to get too discouraged. And like you said, you know, it's more of a marathon. And it's not this sprint where everything happens right away. And I try and find some comfort in the fact that I am young and that I do have a lot of years ahead of me, and not everything is going to happen at once. But, you know, when you look at certain artists that are my age or younger, that it was like they were just discovered overnight on SoundCloud and then they had this huge career, sometimes it's like, okay, well then why couldn't that be me? Or what's the difference between me and those other artists? And I try not to be like that, but sometimes it is hard, because this is something I really want, and, you know, that I put a lot of work into, and that my parents have, you know, so graciously spent money on, you know, this hobby for me that I want to become a dream career. So it's a challenge, but, you know, like you said, it's a marathon and not a sprint, and you have to be in it for the long run. And I'm sure you know that too, you know, working on all your stuff. Probably when you first started, you were like, oh, what am I doing? And then with COVID, it was probably like this whole new restart where you had to do everything online rather than going to shows and going in person and reviewing films. So it's all a process, and I just think I need to chill out, you know, but I'm very much a planner. So sometimes it's very hard for me to just sit and relax. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Very well said, and I completely resonate with what you said. And I actually saw some other artists that I've interviewed recently in the last month or two, that this numbers game thing gets, I think it's just natural in human nature to think, you know, I really worked hard on something, and then maybe it's not finding the size of audience that maybe it could or should.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that in terms of looking at it that way. It just becomes, as long as you don't only look at it that way, because then it's something very negative. But I'm not going to lie about that. I'll sit there and look at my numbers, especially if I just got turned down for something, because they'll say, Mark, your numbers aren't where they should be. And I'm like, well, yeah, I know that, depending on which guest we're trying to talk to.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there might be someone who I consider is actually larger than that particular other guest, and they'll say yes. So I'm like, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? And then some guests, they're like, they just want to know what kind of work you've done. And then if they had a good experience with you before, then they, oh yeah, Mark will definitely come back and do him. They don't give a crap about numbers, about any of that kind of reach, all those kind of things.
Yeah.
And so I just have to. It's hard to stay the course, even though in your mind and your heart, you know you're supposed to stay the course. Because every now and then I do this, I'll kind of look over like, what happened here? I'm on, interview live stream 112 this year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so it's like it's not for a lack of working or
yeah, because you're putting in so much work. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's very similar for yourself that you've been doing things, and we're going to talk about this real soon, that are going to culminate in this EP release. And it's like, well, I'm doing all this stuff, and things are building up, and there's a groundswell and everything like it's supposed to happen. So it seems like I should be getting a little bit more of that pie than maybe I am. And then you tell yourself, well, no, I don't want to think that way. I should just kind of be grateful for what I have, which everyone is. But I think it's natural to just kind of wonder for a little bit, like, well, what happened here?
Yeah. And I think too, it is about the being grateful thing, because I think about people that have messaged me privately saying that a song touched them, or, I sing in church as well. So when somebody tells me like, thank you so much, I really needed that, like, that's where the reward comes from, is when your music is able to impact people. And I think sometimes a lot of the artists and bigger artists in LA, it's just very, let's write a hit mentality, like no content, no substance. And I'd rather be an independent artist that has substance and has lyrics that people can, really resonate with, and that they can really like make their own in a way. And, they could take my music and interpret it how they want. I'd rather have that than it be just cookie cutter pop, cut and dry, So I'm very thankful and very grateful for everybody that listens, and, people who will still say to me, wow, like your first record really meant a lot to me. And I love that. And that's, I think, where I get my greatest reward from. But as an artist, when you're trying to make it, and, when you're trying to do certain things, like get the subscribers or get the followers that more people pay attention, sometimes the numbers trip you up a little bit,
Yeah, I do know. So if anyone's watching this right now, obviously go to Sydney's YouTube channel and subscribe.
Thank you.
Go to.
I won't say my number of subscribers, because I didn't have a YouTube for a very long time, and people kept telling me, get a YouTube. And I was like, nah, I don't really know. And then once I started doing more videos, more content videos, like, the acoustic versions that I've done of the songs, that's when I was like, okay, yeah, I need a YouTube channel. So, yeah, mine is low, but I will hopefully work it up. So that's good.
Well, and with everyone's help out there, we'll get those numbers up for everybody, including Sydney. And
Thank you.
It's such an interesting thing that, again, it's not to spend too much time on social media and all those kind of things, but sometimes I look at things and I'm kind of like, I'm just kind of tired of that aspect. I'd rather put that energy into what I do. But then I also realize, for me, especially, it's a double-edged sword, because if I don't know what's going on, then they don't necessarily know unless they subscribe to my channel or hit notifications and all that kind of stuff. So it's a very useful tool. Even like right now, for you and I talking, we both were posting things and sharing stuff, so people at least are aware of the fact that this is happening. And the really nice part of live streams, as we all know, is that if people can't watch it during the actual live portion, they can come back.
They can always watch it after.
Yeah. And so again, if you're watching this a week from now, go hit that subscription button for everybody. I'm gonna just be on this for a while. I have a bad feeling about hit that, please. I have so little.
No, listen, it's definitely a struggle, and there are some days where I'm like, oh, I really should post a cover right now because it'll be better for engagement, but I really don't feel like it. Or social media is too much. I wish I could just delete everything. But then I'm like, no, I need to use this to my advantage, even when I don't feel like using it. Because it's very frustrating with the algorithms, and nobody sees stuff, and more people see stories than your posts, and your posts get hidden, and it's just very frustrating. But yeah, I know it is a useful tool, and it's definitely helped both you and I, especially during COVID. So I'm grateful for it, but it does get annoying sometimes. It definitely does.
Yeah, I think we have the same mentality about that, and it just kind of, we choose to use it the way that we do. We're grateful for things that happen from it. I've been connected to people strictly from social media that I never knew what it is. It's just more of the other side of it. I don't want to call it the dark side of it, but just the other side of it just kind of gets a bit much, and that's when you just kind of take a break from it for a little bit and just kind of revisit it when you can, and kind of go from there. And before we start talking about, like you mentioned, the acoustic versions of your songs that you've been putting out, I know you and I both probably want to say that we're definitely thinking about Tom and Tracy and their family.
Yes, definitely.
I know that's your publicist, and Tom's somebody that I've known since 2015, going through a really tough time right now, but looks like things are starting to get a little bit better for them. So I'm definitely thinking about them, and just want to do a quick shout out to them, because they're really, really good people, and then also really good at what they do. So that's a winning combination.
Yeah, and like I was saying to you in pre-show, you know, Tom has helped me out so much during this time, and you know, I've never met Tom, but Tom's like a part of the family now. You know, my mom and I, we really love Tom and Tracy, and he's helped me so much, and it's such an unfortunate thing that happened, and I'm, you know, we're really praying for him, and you know, we're really hoping that he's able to, you know, come out on top and come back stronger. It's definitely been, you know, a loss not being able to speak with him, and you know, just to check in about you know, how he's doing all the time, but you know, we're keeping up with Tracy's posts just to see and make sure that he's doing well. But I'm definitely thinking about them all the time, and I will send this to them. So Tom and Tracy, if you're watching, we love you, and Tom, we hope you get better soon.
Here, here, and I think there's a lot of people who share that sentiment, that know both Tom and Tracy, either professionally or personally. But let's kind of move and segue into, you do have a release tonight, and it's taking some of the acoustic tracks that you've done leading up to this point. So what are we going to be getting in a few hours here?
So I wanted to do this because it's actually funny how you kind of sparked this idea in my head, because you said you really loved the live acoustic versions of my songs. And, you know, for me, I was like, oh, if people really love this, then I feel like I should put it in a spot where, you know, people can listen to it collectively instead of always going to the YouTube videos. And, you know, when you're on your phone, or if you're on your iPad or something, as soon as you close out of YouTube, you can't listen. So I figured if people wanted to listen to the music, I'll put it on iTunes, Spotify. And like I said, a lot of people loved the unplugged versions, and I love how they turned out as well. So I figured, why not turn that into an EP? So it's 3 songs. I did Wolves, Let Me Down, and Creep. So all the videos that I've done for that, I've put into format that fits on Apple Music, Spotify, and everything. So everybody can just listen instead of always going back to the videos, which I'm excited about.
Okay, very cool. And yeah, that's even better that I guess through one of our discussions or something, that I do distinctly remember thinking that, especially with Let Me Down, that version to me was, for me personally, it was better than the one that was on the record. And the record one on the record was great too, in its own way. It's just a different type of approach to the song. The fact that you've broken down 3 of them and now putting them all together so people can sit there and just listen to them as much as they want in one spot, and put them into playlists and everything else to help get that out there is tremendous, because it also helps show some scope. You know, besides the Headspace EP, now we have this, and people can kind of like, well, look at that range. And I was just talking with a guest yesterday who come from more of an electronic kind of background, and they kept saying that they even start acoustically with their songs, which I was really surprised by. But they're saying, you know, if those songs don't sound good acoustically, no matter what we throw on top of it, it's not going to make it any better.
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. It's so true. And I think that it's always nice for other people to see what the songs are like without all the production and without all of the stuff added to it, when it's just you and your instrument. And I think mostly for Let Me Down, that song I really just wrote in my bedroom with over Zoom with one of my co-writers that I love to work with. And we wrote that song, and it was literally just 2 guitars, you know, and that's how I would always play it. And then when we went into the studio to film that video, I was like, you know what, this is really cool that people are getting to see a different side to it than like this driven kind of rock moody ballad, instead of it being just like this acoustic, stripped down, laid back kind of vibe. And I think people really appreciated that. And I thought that was cool that people still love that version, even though it wasn't the version on the record, you know?
Yeah, and it's almost like when you have the recorded studio versions that ended up on Headspace, when you kind of strip them down into something else, it almost becomes like, I don't want to say Halloween, but it becomes like it's the same thing, but it's different. And,
yeah.
And so it's almost like, well, here's this song, but then here's this other version of it. And yes, it's the same lyrics and it's the same, basic chord structure, but they come across very differently, and it might even resonate differently depending on which person. Like if someone likes to listen to more organic, say, bluegrass, folk type music, they might like the acoustic version better than the recorded version. And it could be the opposite for somebody who doesn't really like the acoustic stuff. They want to hear more of a drums and bass thing going on behind the tune.
Yeah.
So you start reaching into a wider audience, which is probably the best thing.
Yeah, no, and I, like I said, I love doing it, and I got to do every single video with people that I really loved and musicians that I love to work with, and all of the guys that I played with, I worked with on my first record, and my guitarist Ron, who is my producer here in New Jersey, and he's become like family to me too, and getting to do those videos with him is pretty awesome. He's like my musical dad. So getting to work with him and just, spending time together and creating music is really awesome. And that's why I think I love those videos too, and why people get more of a warm sense from them is just because the love is there between everybody that I'm working with, because we're all fans of each other, and we all love each other's work and everything that we do. So that's probably my favorite part about those videos, is coming together with everybody. And that makes it the most fun for me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, because it's something that obviously you're loving personally, doing those and being around people that you love working with. And then it does translate through the video to someone like myself, any audience member that watches any of these. Once we're done with this, if you go to Sydney's YouTube channel, don't forget to hit subscribe. Then,
thank you.
Then it becomes something, you can watch something that may have been like one of the regular tracks off of Headspace, or the studio tracks. But then when you watch one of these in those sessions, it really kind of gives a lot of depth to it. And your music, and we've talked about this since the first time I heard it back in February, there's a lot of depth to your music anyway. So watching this whole thing kind of just breathe even further out, it really kind of expands like where you could really go with this stuff. It could be on any direction, again, from the full-blown studio backing band stuff to something much more stripped down, and everything in between of it too. There really isn't any kind of limit.
Yeah. I'm very thankful that even, during this crazy COVID time, I've been able to do stuff like that safely, of course. And I'm very much looking forward to doing more stuff like that in the future. So I'm happy. Things are going good, and now that things are opening up more, I expect to be getting out more, doing more shows and doing more videos and stuff like that.
Okay, now I'm curious. Maybe this isn't I don't know, maybe it's not the right place, but like when you're performing in church, have you ever performed one of your own songs?
I have not. There have been times where it's been more of like a showcase. I'm trying to think of when that was. Where did I play it? I think I played Creep for people. I literally, it must have been so long ago that I don't remember. But I had talked about the song. A church that I had played at, the pastor was very interested in my music and what I wrote about and mental health. And he had allowed me to share. I didn't sing, but I had shared about the record and about Creep and the songs. And when I do sing at church, it's mostly, like your traditional worship music and stuff that I pick. And, there are sometimes things that I'll write on my own that I haven't shared yet, but I definitely could share in that setting. But I have been able to talk about my music and share that with the congregation, which is really cool. And it's cool to see how people who are, in the church are still really accepting that I'm not doing the traditional Christian music. I am a Christian, and that's who I am. And I feel like who I am is infused into my music. So I'm not writing gospel music or worship music, but I am writing about how, God brought me out of a really dark place and depression and my anxiety. And I think that resonates with people. So it's really cool to see when I do get the opportunity to share that, even though it's not traditional worship or praise music. And that's been interesting too, is to see how that's been accepted in that community as well. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, yeah, that's great that they're you know, when you're getting acceptance of really anything, anywhere, especially if it's a place that you know, hold in such high regard, obviously, that the congregation also is supportive of it. And also, I'm starting to picture that as I look out my window here and I see the sun, that I would hope at some point this summer you might be able to play somewhere outside, you know, an outdoor gig somewhere, either just acoustic, just to be able to, here's my set of my songs that you've done, and maybe something that you, I don't know, a cover or something that you're working on that hasn't been recorded yet. It seems like we're right on that. We're right on that cusp.
I know. I've been kind of itching to do that. I haven't really. I've played out before, but nothing where I would, you know, go out and play a ton. I feel like, you know, I'm always doing stuff for our foundations events, or if anybody else needs me to sing at an event, but never to be like, oh, you know what, let me go like put a set together and play for all these people. The last time I did that was at the Stone Pony in 2019, I believe. So it was a year before COVID, and there was a lot of stuff going on. And then of course COVID hit, and then that's when I wanted to start. And I wanted to start then, but then everything was halted. So now the Stone Pony just opened back up officially. So I'm looking forward to possibly getting to do a show this summer there. But then other places too, you know, just exploring where can I play out, where can I sing. And you know, sometimes people be like, oh, well, nobody's really listening, but that's not really the thing for me, you know, because I feel like there's always that one person that listens and really enjoys it and will come up to you and say like, oh, I really like that. And that's what makes it worth it. And I love singing and playing out. So hopefully I get to do more of that. And now that they're pretty much open up here in New Jersey, I feel like that's going to be more of a possibility for me than it was back in the winter or, you know, back in the beginning of COVID. So
that's great to hear. And yeah, we're pretty much close to being fully open here in Washington State. So I think the governor will be making a decision about that actually maybe next week. That isn't it interesting that you've done things for your foundations, and when people request things, and we would love to have you be a part of this, and that's awesome. But then it also becomes that there's this other thing over here where there also needs to be something strictly about you. And you're saying you're getting ready to do that, and then COVID hit. So now it's kind of like, well, can we kind of get those gears going again and figure out where's the 5 places we should play during the course of the summer, or 3 places is, and kind of being somewhat strategic about it, but also knowing that this is really all about you now. And you're right, sometimes you never ever know who's sitting in the back or off to the side that's really digging what you're doing, and they may not even know that you were there. Sometimes they just wander in or wander, especially if it's outdoors.
Yeah.
This is kind of good. And then they hang around for the whole set. And if they're maybe not bold enough, but maybe forward enough, they might actually come up and talk to you. Like, wow, I really liked your music. Or can you tell me more about it? Or do you have a CD somewhere? Or whatever else is going on? And even for me, when we were playing cover tunes, and maybe looking around and say, oh, there's only 8 people here. You just never know who you're connecting with.
Exactly. And you never know who's in the audience too. You know, it could be somebody that could really help change your life or your career, or even just somebody that can come alongside you and help you in that way. So you never know. And I think that's the cool part too, you know?
It is. And I remember, and I think I told a story during another live stream where I was covering a show locally at a club that's actually unfortunately no longer here, not because of COVID, but for other reasons. And this opening band, I felt so bad for them. They had to go on like at 5:30. And this was like a long night of hard rock metal bands. So the first band on, typically they wouldn't open doors till 7, but they had to go on super early. So there's like 5 people there. And one of their friends was going around and handing out CDs, like an EP of something of the band. And they didn't give one to me. and I'm just standing against the post. I'm not looking, intimidating. I'm short anyway, so I'm not intimidating to anybody. But I just saw this person walking. Hey, they're trying to hand this stuff out for free, and I'm kind of like, oh, cool, I'll get one and I'll stick it into my camera bag. And I never got one. So I went over to their table. I said, I saw you guys handing out some music. Do you have any more copies of that? So I'm actually here covering the show. And they're like, oh, they were trying to dig.
Yeah, right. I would have been like, oh, maybe they did it on purpose, like to lure people to their table. It was a marketing strategy. But then they're like, oh, you're covering it? Let me get you a CD. Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, and clearly they had no clue And they wouldn't know. I don't have like some big sign on me that says I'm from Eclectic Arts and I'm here,
Yeah, concert reviewer, film reviewer. You got to get a shirt. You just got to wear it everywhere you go.
That's good branding. I might need to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just always remember that was back in like 2017 or 18. I always find it funny that of all the people they missed, they missed the person that could actually maybe get the word out a little bit more than the average.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully you do get a chance to be out there and playing music live. And even just my own opinion, I always think it's great when you're playing gigs, period. I think it's a good skill. I think it's a good way for you to get confidence. It's a good way to understand maybe you're not feeling so confident that day and you look around and people are like, talking to each other or whatever. And so can you get past that headspace of being able, no pun intended, but to actually move forward and put out there what you want to put out there, your authentic self, and people can love it or hate it or whatever, but just staying on that path, because the more you keep doing it, the more people will start to come gravitate towards what you're doing. And then they will start talking to you and they will start struggling with the next gig. That's even bigger when they start following you around. So they definitely like what you're doing and they want to keep you on their radar.
Yeah, I think too, I've been working with a few people just about, performance and how to enhance that. And for me, I get very in the zone when I'm singing live. And even if I'm doing a video, and eye contact for me is probably one of the worst things. It's like my eyes are either closed or I'm looking this way or I'm looking that way. So a lot of people have said to me, you really connect with people when your eyes are open and when you're looking at them. And that's going to be probably one of the main things that I implement in my future performances. But then to go along with that, every time I've ever performed, I've performed with my guitar. And my guitar is almost like my security blanket. So it kind of gives me like this feeling of, okay, I have something to hide behind. So like if I'm looking down at the fretboard, or if I'm looking down at how I'm strumming, it's okay because I'm playing an instrument. So I am hoping that the more I play shows, I will be able to maybe not use my guitar a lot and really interact with the audience, because I feel like that's going to help me the most. Because I do feel like I do get very in the zone and I'm very focused and I just need to let loose sometimes. So I think that not having my guitar in future performances will help me with that. But, like you said about connecting with the audience and having people follow you, I feel like for me, implementing those two things are really going to help me, because that's definitely been my struggle the most. I don't think I've ever played without my guitar. Actually, I did one time. And it was the worst performance of my life. And my grandma tries to repost it every year when the memory comes up on Facebook. And I'm like, Mama, that's what I call my grandma. I'm like, Mama, please don't repost that. That's like, that was such a cringe performance for me. And it was at the time where I was working with a vocal coach that I didn't mesh well with her. And it was always what I couldn't do instead of where my voice was. She was giving me like Sarah Bareilles songs. And my voice is very low, as I'm an alto, and there was no way I was hitting those soprano notes. So that's the one time that I have performed without my guitar, but I will not let that ruin my future experiences of me singing by myself and just letting loose and having fun. But I think that that'll really help me if I implement those two things, because I haven't really done that before.
It's really interesting how much intention you have based on what you just said, that you already know that your guitar is your safety zone and makes you feel better when you're performing. So that becomes a crutch in a sense. And so if I remove that and force myself to be out there just with the mic and having to talk to people and or sing to them, that's a whole other ball of wax. And now that I think about it, I don't think I've ever done that. Granted, I was not the lead singer in my duo, but when I was singing lead, I was just playing strumming chords and stuff on my guitar, because it's like I feel good when I'm around this. My voice, in my case, not so much. So if they took that away and I had to actually like hang onto a microphone, oh God.
Like it's awkward. Yeah. And that's why sometimes I'll just come down here in my basement where I am now and I'll just grab a mic stand and practice moving around, because I've never had to do that before. Like when I'm playing, the last time I played at the Stone Pony, I had my acoustic the whole time and I wasn't really moving. I couldn't really move anywhere, because I have all the chords and there's people beside me. But when it's just you, think about how awkward it's going to look if you just stand there. So that's why I think, getting to interact with the crowd more is going to be something that really elevates my performances and then other people's performances too. You know, when you see like one of my favorite, I mean, watching her perform is so cool. Hayley Williams of Paramore. She like commands the stage and she's very energetic and she just like rocks every performance, you know, and it's not awkward at all. Like even if it's like awkward dancing, she's still like making it like this grand thing that people are connecting to. So I think that that will probably be a good strength and a good thing to implement. But, you know, like you said, imagine if you just had to stand there and that's going to be me. That's going to be me. So the first couple of shows when I get that worked out, I don't want anybody to judge me. But yeah, if you just stand there, it's friggin' awkward, you know? So I need to learn how to not just stand there and move around and interact.
Yeah, and I totally understand what you're saying. I understand the part of like, you know, being in your basement and kind of practicing some of that kind of thing. And then also, yeah, when you actually get a chance to implement that in front of, you know, actual live people, it's going to be a learning curve, and that's natural. And that kind of goes back to what I was mentioning about, to me, gigging is important as long as you keep doing it. Just get out there and keep working at it, way at it. Maybe you'll do something that you thought, oh, I think this is really going to work. I practiced it a lot, and you get out there in front of people and it bombs. It's terrible. And you might even know it's like it's not authentically you, like you're trying to be something else that just doesn't feel right. But you won't know until you try it in front of some people. Or you might be doing something you think, I don't know how this is going to work, and it goes over huge. It might be something that I get. Oh, remember that next time you play, you know, say that joke or say that line or do whatever because people really liked it. And you start putting all those pieces into your tool belt, and then it starts becoming your show and what you do on stage. And I think, and Sydney, you're so good about just coming across with something that's purely organic from yourself, that this will happen for you, because some people, they can't figure that out for themselves. They don't even know where their center is, so they have nothing.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you know, from the conversations we've had over the last 6 months or so now, you have that already built, so then you can just build off of it, which is great. That's half the battle. And just getting out there and seeing what happens. At the end of the day, the worst thing that's happened is like, well, I just won't do that again.
Yeah. And I feel like too, you know, sometimes people wouldn't disclose stuff like that, like, oh, it's awkward, or I've never done that before, or never done this before. But I feel like, you know, when I do certain interviews and stuff like that, I like to keep it real, because it's just who I am. You know, I'm a very real kind of person where I don't sugarcoat things or make things seem better than they actually are. And just being able to share with you, I think that's why I love talking with you so much and love doing things like this with you, is just because we're both very real and it's not fabricated, and we just talk about life, which I think is really cool, because you see a lot of other interviews with people and it's just very like surface level, and we talk about really cool things. And I always appreciate that in your questions, and how, you know, I get to talk about things that I would never really talk about because it's not what I'm supposed to talk about, you know, being an artist. So it's really cool.
Well, I appreciate you willing to, you know, go down that path and really be your true self, because the flip side of that is sometimes I will try to, well, not sometimes, I always try to create a safe space for every guest that I have. But that doesn't mean that they want to, you know, go there. They may not want to expose themselves. They may not want to go there. It's a little too vulnerable. It's a little bit too, what are people going to think about me? And you and I kind of come from a similar mindset, that I'm like, I just kind of put everything out there. I'm as transparent as possible, because then people know, why am I tuning in? Well, Mark's like this, and that, something he said resonated with me, and that, yeah, things are not perfect in my life. They never are. Sometimes good. Like right now, things aren't bad. They're not bad at all. They could be better. they could be worse too. So I mean, it's all about perspective.
Exactly.
And sometimes I get caught up. You know, I want things to happen immediately, and we've talked about this, where I have to kind of take a breath and realize, you know what? Sometimes those things aren't going to happen as quickly as I'd like them to, and sometimes I'm terrible about taking on too much. And I know I messaged you about, oh yeah, I got this film festival, and I got this thing to do, and I got this other stuff to do, and it's like, I don't have anyone to point fingers at. It's all pointing at me, because I could easily say no, and someone said, well, do you have like a fear of missing out? And I'm like, no, I have a fear of that. It's not even a fear. It's more of like, here's an opportunity, so let me try to take advantage of it while it's there, because I know at some point, even like say doing something, not so much now, but like in the middle of the day, like at noon, it won't be possible for me because of like my muggle job or something else that I'm doing. So it's like, well, I got the time now. So if someone says, just like the one I did today, that happened yesterday when the PR reached out to me. So initially I was going to say, is that date right? They're talking about booking stuff for tomorrow. And I'm like, well, can I do that? I'm like, yeah, I guess I could. I work late on Tuesday nights, but then I could still get up and do this and make it happen. Um, but I easily could have said, no, I'm not going to try to do that. But then I started thinking about, well, here's how many times do I ever get to talk to a world championship boxer who has 2 belts, for her, and all these accolades, and was an amazing interview and that kind of thing, and has been a part of a really great film, her very first film she's ever done. But so I'm thinking, well, shit, I should try to do this then, because it could be 6 months down the road where she puts out another film, like, oh, I really like this film, and I can't get a hold of her, or the PR people don't want to talk to me or whatever. It's very much a catch-22, but at the end of the day, and I know we've talked about this too in other interviews, where it's always about balance and trying to find it. And I've been out of balance for a couple of months now, but it's slow.
The whole year, Mark.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, when you look at 112, maybe that is the whole year, but it's slowly coming back this way. The film festival stuff, I think, for me is done, so I'll just have my other films, and the ballet's done, the opera's done, and it's summertime, so it'd be more about music, I think, music live streams, and then whatever that first show is where I'm actually physically back with my camera bag, maybe with my film camera if I'm doing an interview on site. We'll kind of see. I don't even know what that's going to be, but I'm seeing stuff, and it's slowly getting on my radar. Like, Mark, what are you doing? Are you going to try to put in for one of these shows? Because now that's where we're at. It's time to start doing that, and this will never disappear. It'll just be, instead of it being up here and live stuff down there, just kind of do this a little bit, start evening out. But it won't be like dropping off completely, because this is awesome, especially for people like yourself. When you have something to promote, we can come on virtually and talk about it.
Exactly, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be that you're coming out to the West Coast. It could be, hey, we're doing an East Coast tour of 10 dates. We can come on and promote it before you actually hit the road. And you can do that with other people, obviously, that you also want to do interviews with. So this tool has been amazing for the last year and a half. And like you mentioned, connect with all kinds of people through virtual things and through social media. And so when it works well, it really works well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you and I got connected through a press release.
Yep. Yeah, an email, which is so crazy too, and that's been interesting just to see how all that works. I did like my first radio show with a local radio station here in New Jersey, and that was just an email, and then all of a sudden I'm like in a studio doing my first radio show, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. And I was there for a long time, like it was probably over 2 hours, and that was a different experience for me, but just got connected via email. And I obviously know, like, email's been around for a while and the internet's been around for a while, but to see how it's worked during this time has been really cool, because things that you would have had to have left your house for, or, interviews, like maybe we wouldn't have never even met if it wasn't for COVID, if you weren't doing things virtually. So it's been a challenge, but it's also been a blessing, in the same light, because it's been able to connect me with other people that I may not have connected with before.
Yeah, very well said. And you're absolutely right. Had the pandemic not hit, I don't think I would be doing any of this virtual stuff. It was the furthest in my mind. And then it became, again, and I've told this story, I won't go over it all over again, being on the Alice tour, but that connected me with them and their audience. And then some of those folks are still following me to this day, who I've met, have been some amazing fans and supporters. And then I met you through an email press release. And I mean, it could have been a split second of me, like, not looking at that press release, skipping it in my inbox and going to something else, or opening it, but then not listening to the music, which I believe was Creep at the time. And also not realizing I had the whole EP at my disposal, and I didn't even realize it at the time. That just came back to me. And we joked about that afterward. And then also just you being your authentic self, myself getting a chance to talk to Aviv and talk to Mariah, who I knew personally. So we put the three of you together back in February. And that was a really great time for me to see. Much of that time, I'm just kind of disappearing into the wall because the three of you are kind of talking to each other, which was awesome.
Yeah, that was really cool. And I'm still, like, I will message them, which it's cool too that it introduced us. I follow both of them and keep in touch with both of them, and just to see their projects and what they're working on is super cool. And you created that space for us, and for us to support each other as female artists is really cool too. So I'm very thankful for it, because it has been such a great connecting tool throughout this whole time.
Yeah, no, it was absolutely my pleasure. It was something that's fun to do. There's some part of my brain when I start interviewing guests where I'm kind of like, gosh, they remind me of this other person, or I think they might have fun kind of resonating with each other or just kind of vibing off of each other and being a direct or indirect support system for each other, especially when it comes to things that I'm really passionate about. And I've been a strong supporter of women in music most of my life. So it's kind of like, I don't know what that is. I couldn't teach it at all. It's just something something in my brain says like, yeah. So I just actually had that happen recently with a couple of guests. I think maybe they would like to talk to each other.
It's an intuition. That's good.
Yeah, something going along there. So, and I've asked this before, and maybe it's just something that's pending, but when you've talked about with this EP dropping today and having the acoustic versions, which I happen to love, is there any way that this is going to somehow make it into a physical release, or even putting that with Headspace together on a CD or something, or a vinyl or whatever?
Yeah, so I had definitely explored that, and that was my plan. Even I remember my plan was to get those physical copies for Headspace. Few things happened where that didn't wind up working out, or just being in the cards where that was something that I was going to be able to do. But I think that what would be really cool is including the live sessions. And it's so funny, Mark, you give me all my great ideas. I'm just gonna refer to you now and just keep doing things with you, and then you're gonna give me my ideas. But it would be really cool to have that, like the Headspace CD, and then have like the 3 bonus tracks on it, which would be the live versions. And I never thought of that, but maybe that's why it didn't work out for me to do the CDs around the time when I was supposed to do them. And I think that is also going to be a strength for me, is having that physical copy, because I feel like when I was recording the record, especially with quarantine, I'm like, who's going to want a CD? Like, who's going to really want it? Like, I don't know. They're really not a huge thing anymore, but it's a huge thing again, just like vinyl is a huge thing again. A lot of people, it was like that digital age. Like I remember like, the iPod Shuffle mini little thing, and then vinyls were nowhere to be found, and then they come back and it's like this trendy thing, but I love listening to vinyl, and that would be really cool to put that on a vinyl because you can't replicate that sound. But maybe that is why it didn't work out the first time, and maybe I will consider that. And I think that a lot of people, just based off of the reaction to the record and people that I've done other interviews with and press stuff with, that has been something that a lot of people have been wanting. And I meant to do it, but it just didn't work out at the time. So maybe that time is now.
Okay, yeah. And if I have other ideas, I'll definitely say.
Thank you. Yes, giving me great ideas.
Yeah, and I won't charge you for them right now.
Gotta give me an hourly rate soon. Like, it's going to be $20 an hour for one idea. I'm going to be like, okay.
Yeah, well, and you absolutely could be right. Maybe the timing just wasn't in the cards at that time, and because this other idea was going to come from some bald Asian guy in Seattle, and it's going to be something that you put together. Like, this is why you had to wait, because this thing is actually a better idea of putting the EP with the live tracks out and kind of going from there. And you're right. I'm even seeing some, and not just like metal bands. I'm seeing like other genres are putting out cassettes. Cassettes. I'm like, I never thought I'd see those come back, and now I'm seeing more and more of them.
It's really funny because, I'm 19, and friends that I have that are my age, like, don't know what they are. And I'm like, did you guys not have like a cassette player in your house? Like, I remember, my mom would have different tapes, or it would be like one song or like a voice recording or something like that. And we always had it. And I thought it was like the coolest thing. But now I think I saw, I'm not like the biggest pop person, but there are like a few bands that I really love. Lainey is one of them, and they just put out cassettes, or they're putting out cassettes. I think it was them. And I was like, that's so like, it's like a very like trendy kind of on brand thing for a lot of people now. And it's funny to see how things come back. It's like, it was one of those things that just came back recently. And I was like, that was like Crocs. Like Crocs back in the early 2000s were like the thing. And then everybody was like, oh, Crocs are so ugly. And now you see everybody's wearing Crocs, at least here. I don't know. But it's just funny, how things come back. And that's why I don't think anything will really go out of style. And that's why I was wrong in my thinking about the CDs of who's going to want a CD, because it seems like things always come back one way or another.
You're right. There's cycles to everything, it seems. And then the other thing, and I've talked to not just yourself, but many other guests when it comes to physical media, is that there are collectors out there. That mentality doesn't shift, and it doesn't mean that's a certain age group or anything like that. It's like some people just like to collect stuff. They want to look in their shelf or whatever and say, I've got all 3 things from Sydney Sherwood, or I've got whatever. They just like to have that stuff. They might even do both, where they bought the CD and they also have the digital download and they have whatever else and their their playlists and stuff going on. But they just want to have something that they can actually feel like they have, because otherwise you have nothing to collect. And it just becomes this weird thing. And I'm actually glad to see that some younger people are thinking that way, instead of saying, why do I want to put all this crap in my room? I don't have enough space as it is. It's like, no, they actually want to have something, stick it on their wall, stick it wherever.
Like a physical copy, where you could be like, I mean, for me, I love listening to older music. So when I'm in my room and I have my my vinyls and I put on like Simon and Garfunkel, like that's an experience, and like you put it on and then you put the needle on and you're just listening to it that way. It's so much different than if I just pop my headphones on and then all of a sudden I'm listening, and I think it's cool because when you collect things like that, it has more of a meaning to it as well. And you could be like, oh, I remember when I bought that, or I remember when I put it in my car, in the CD player, and I listened to it at that exact moment. And then you could do that too if you're listening through headphones, but I feel like having that physical copy is really a big thing for people now, which is cool too.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It does help give you that like marker in time. If you physically had something and you remember like maybe what store you bought it at, or online where you bought it from, or when it showed up on your doorstep, kind of a thing, and opening the package, everything, versus like, well, I know I downloaded that sometime in May, but I don't remember exactly where I was or what I did. I just know I have it available to me now, versus like, again, listening to it, playing it like you just described on your turntable, and then it's somewhere in your collection, somewhere in your house. And like in my case, I can see a lot of the stuff that I've purchased from some of the artists I've interviewed that's literally over there on the wall. So I'm constantly always saying like, yeah, if you get a chance to put something out there, don't miss out on that potential part of your market that's there. And granted, it's something you have to be real strategic about too, because it's not like you can buy, get 500,000 CDs pressed up and expect them to move. But there's enough market out there, especially if you're playing shows, that some people are still going to walk up there and still buy something from your merch table, just from your guitar case if you have them with you. And I'm seeing Queen saying, I'm very familiar with cassettes because that's the only thing my uncle plays in his vintage Mustang while we speed down PCH. They had actually great sound in the car. Okay, well,
that's awesome.
That's a great way to, if you have your top down, or if you don't have a top down, you're just blazing down the road and you got cassettes
that's such
blaring.
A cool vibe. That's awesome. I love that. That's so great.
Yeah. So you mentioned, we already know, what is the title of this EP that's coming out tonight?
It's called Headspace, the Live Sessions. So it's just basically same title, but just all the live versions of the songs that I've done so far. And I had decided, do I want to do a live version for every song? And I picked basically my 3 favorites that I've ever written, that I've worked on, and just what they mean to me. And Headspace, the Live Sessions is actually out right now. It's 8:00. And it released 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then everywhere else it releases at the same time. So it should be, if I'm correct, it should be out already on the West Coast as well. And also, I apologize because my cat just keeps meowing and scratching at the door. So if anybody hears that, that's what that is. Very unfiltered over here. My cat just wants to come in here and spend time with me. I haven't seen her all day today.
Okay, well, everybody, there you go. You can check out Sydney's new live acoustic EP. It should be on digital platforms everywhere. And Sydney, was so great catching up with you and get a chance to talk about your new music. And we know offline that we have something else in the works between you and I that will eventually get on the schedule. We'll let everybody know via social media. And
yes.
kind of go from there. But again, in all seriousness, thank you so much for taking the time, and thank everyone out there for subscribing to Sydney's channel, to my channel on YouTube, and any kind of platform that you follow us on. And we greatly, sincerely appreciate the support. And I see Queen saying she has a fantastic voice, very warm. Yeah, absolutely, Queen. She's an amazing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, she is wise beyond her years, and that's one of the first things I noticed when I was listening to her music back in February. So if you haven't checked out her channel or all of her music, do a deep dive, listen to the new EP tonight, listen to everything you can find out on YouTube and other platforms that she's already put out. You will not be disappointed. So
thank you. And one more thing, to Queen, she had asked if it was the same thing. So basically the EP is all of the live sessions that I've done video wise, except it's all in a music format. So you can just listen on iTunes. So whatever you watch in the videos is exactly what will be on iTunes, Apple Music, Spotify, and other platforms like that.
Perfect. Yeah. And so Sydney, hopefully we'll get a chance to talk. Well, I know we'll get a chance to talk sooner than later.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, and everyone is following this and joined us for the live stream. Thank you so much for taking the time. And if you're watching this down the road, again, thank you for supporting what Sydney does. Thank you for supporting what I do. And we'll see you when we see you. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you so much, Mark. Good night.